Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be discussing my September TBR. And this is a TBR that I'm pretty excited for. If anybody checked out one of my most recent videos about TBRs in general, I talked about in that video some of the books that had ended up on previous TBRs this year, but that for one reason or another, I did not get around to reading. And I am happy to report that I have some of those books put back in for September, and I'm very hopeful that I will be able to get to them. So this gives me that combination of reading something new and exciting that I've been looking forward to, but also checking off some old goals, which is a very satisfying feeling. So it is an ambitious TBR. There are 10 books on here. None of them are audiobooks. I don't think any of them are particularly short, but some of them are particularly long. So there's going to have to be some prioritizing done. If there's anything that you would really like to see me read or talk about, or something that you've been looking forward to hearing about, then please let me know and I will try my best to make that one of the priority reads for September. But as always, we're going to start off by talking about the buddy reads. And I have the official channel buddy read and then two other smaller buddy reads that are happening in September. So officially, the buddy read for September is the Fall of Hyperion. Hyperion was the selection for August, a sci-fi classic that I had really wanted to get to, that I probably felt a little bit intimidated by, and was very happy to read in this capacity because it is a book that promotes a lot of discussion, and there were lots of veterans, people who have read it once or multiple times, jumping into the chat, along with those of us who were stumbling through for our first experience. I'm not going to let you know what I thought of Hyperion because I'll save that for the wrap up, but I will let you know that I had planned to read these as a package even before I knew how I felt about Hyperion, because someone had told me that really to get the full experience you had to read Hyperion and then the Fall of Hyperion, and that's what I decided to do. I'm happy to say that we have people returning from the August buddy read, and then also some people who had previously read Hyperion who are going to jump in and do book 2 with us in September. So if that is something that you have ever wanted to read or something that you really like and you wanted to discuss, feel free to jump in on the Discord. I always leave the link in the videos and we would be happy to have you there. The second book that is not an official buddy read, but there are a couple of us on the Discord who are going to be reading it together, is The First Binding. This is a new fantasy release that I am sure that everybody on BookTube only knows about because of Petric's glowing review. This has been one of the books that Petric has talked the most positively about in 2022. It is a book that he has likened to The Name of the Wind, the first book in the Kingkiller Chronicles, and that's really what put it on my radar. Petric's tastes and my tastes don't always align. Like, some of my very favorite books have been the only books that he's ever made a rant review about, so it's not like we always line up 100%, but the things that he really loved about this book are things that I also really love. And I adore The Name of the Wind. I would love to find another fantasy book that feels like that gives me that same feeling as I'm reading it. So I don't know if it will be the same experience for me, but I am hopeful. I am looking forward to it. Also, if you have not pre-ordered or purchased this book, it is a brick. This is like the one book that is keeping me from thinking I can finish this month's TBR because it is massive, like the sort of book that you use to defend yourself. But hopefully it will feel very fluid and I will be able to read it without, getting stuck or having it drag on for a period of weeks. The last buddy read that I'm doing is going to be along with Joanna and Evie from She Was Only Evie. And this is the Elric saga. So we are going to be reading Elric, and we're reading the stories in the order that they appear in the new publications of the Elric books. So we have the beautiful new hardcover editions, and we're going to be reading those together as a group, and I am pretty excited. I have wanted to read Elric since I read Wizardry and Wild Romance, Michael Moorcock's collection of essays about fantasy as a genre, and I am really looking forward to it because I want to talk about Elric in conjunction with that collection of essays because it's not something that I really discussed discussed at the time. And reading it along with Evie and Joanna is going to be great because they are both very insightful. They're really fun to read books with, and hopefully we will be doing some sort of discussion for this. So these books are really short. I think Elric is probably the shortest book that I have on my TBR, and I don't envision there's going to be any difficulty getting through this one. After that, I've got a couple of new releases. September has two of my most anticipated releases of the year. My most anticipated fantasy release and my most anticipated non-fantasy release. The non-fantasy release is The Winners by Frederick Bachman. So this is the final book in his Beartown series, and I've been waiting for this book for so long. Frederick Bachman's, this is a series about a hockey town in northern Sweden. It's about high school students and other people who are caught up in their orbit. The first book centers around a really difficult situation that arises between the captain of the hockey team and a young girl from town, and how the fallout from that incident impacts everyone in their lives. And it was really raw, really emotional, and fantastic. The second book in the series, for me, I thought bordered a little bit on melodrama. Like, it was almost like watching a teen drama, which is enjoyable. Like, I like that, but I just didn't feel like it had the emotional resonance that Beartown did. That being said, I'm really attached to the characters in this series. And Frederick Bachman, if you have never read a book by him, does these things in his books where he will hint at something happening to a character. And he might make you think that this character is going to die, but the way that he veils his statements and the way that he plays with words and with mysteries inside his story, the way that it unfolds is often not at all what you were thinking. And so he has made statements about characters in this series that I'm like, oh, this makes me so worried, but also I can't trust that it's going to play out exactly the way that I think it is. And so I just really need to know. I am desperate to read this last book. This will definitely be a drop everything and read as soon as the package shows up at my house. So very, very much looking forward to this one. And then speaking of dropping everything to read, my most anticipated book of the year is coming out in September, and that is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. This is Stephen King's new fantasy release. And I pre-ordered this one, but I think I'm going to do something that I don't often do. And that is I will probably end up buying the ebook version on the day that this is released. Because I live in Newfoundland. And not only do I live in Newfoundland, I live in rural, like middle of nowhere Newfoundland. So it takes a really long time for anything to ship here. And because I've pre-ordered this and because Stephen King is really popular, I'm sure they won't ship it until the release date. And it will probably take 2 weeks to arrive after the release date. And if I was just on my own in this, my own little La La Land, no spoilers, no difficulties, that would be fine. But I'm not. I'm going to have to see the reactions from people on BookTube. I know that there are going to be teasers or hints or multiverse connections in this book, and I want to know. So I'm probably going to end up buying this in a digital format on the release date, and I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully it's not a huge flop because I own 2 copies of a book that was disappointing to me, but it is a risk that I am willing to take for Stephen King. I am really hoping for some multiverse connection, for some Dark Tower connections, and I'm really, really excited to read this, and this will also be a drop everything and read the moment that it shows up. As a matter of fact, I haven't looked at my schedule, but I'll probably book the day off for this because I think the kids will be back in school by the time it releases, so I will probably take the day off and then binge read this on its release date. After this, the last book that did not show up on a previous TBR is the third book in the Dagger and Coin series, a series by Daniel Abraham that I am really enjoying. And book 3 is called The Tyrant's Law. This is a great character-driven epic fantasy series that is multi-perspective and gives you a look into power dynamics on the continent, and it kind of pits the dagger or kind of military might and power against the coin or economic control, and how that can kind of tip the tides in war or just in that power struggle that is inherent in any kingdom. So this is a series that I'm really enjoying, and I'm still hopeful that I'm going to be able to do 1 book per month up until the end of the year. After that, we have The Bird King. So this is a standalone fantasy novel that I had on a previous TBR. I think it's by G. Willow Wilson, who wrote a book called Aleph the Unseen, which I really enjoyed. I think it's historical fantasy. I think it's set in our world during a different historical period. I honestly don't remember that much about the synopsis. I just know that I purchased it on a whim a couple of years ago because it had a beautiful cover. I had liked the other book that I had read by this author, and I thought, this could be a fantasy gem that I haven't heard many people talk about. And I would really like to get around to reading it. It's been, like I said, on my physical TBR for a really long time. So this is one that I'm bringing back from a previous TBR, and hopefully it will be an enjoyable read. Similarly, after that, my nonfiction selection for the month is In Order to Live, which is a memoir about escaping from North Korea. This was on a previous TBR, but just got overlooked because I had been listening to my nonfiction on audio instead of reading my nonfiction. Also, there's a dog here that keeps floating around. I don't know if anybody could see that, but it just kept really bothering me. But yes, this is nonfiction. I have been listening to a lot of my nonfiction on audio, but I borrowed this from a friend last year, and I would really like to return it to her. So hopefully, I will actually get around to reading this in September. After that, we have Hero of Ages, of course. So the book that has ended up on the most TBRs this year, Hero of Ages. Will I read it in September? That's the real question for the comment section. Please let me know. Do you think that I will actually read Hero of Ages in September? Would love to know your thoughts. Want to know if everybody thinks that I can actually get around to doing that. But I lied. The last book is actually another buddy read that I forgot to put at the beginning of the video. And that is the 4th book in the new Jedi Order series. I have been trying to get into the Star Wars expanded universe. I have really enjoyed what I have read from the new Jedi Order so far, and I am hopeful that I'm going to be able to continue on my 1 book or maybe sometimes 2 books a month schedule. So if you're a big Star Wars fan, if you have recommendations for the EU, also jump into the Discord because I would love to have more people to talk to about that. But that's it. That is my September TBR. Like I said, this is more of a hybrid kind of mashup TBR. We've got some new selections. We're bringing back some old ones that have been previously ignored, but I am very excited for all of them. I would love to know for all of you, what are you planning to read in September? Do you find that September is a good reading month? Does the kind of academic vibe of September make you want to pick up books and read it? Or is it just such a rush that it's really hard to get to the books that you want to read in September? Please feel free to jump into the Discord and join any of the buddy reads. We would love to have you there, and I will see you with another video soon. Bye!